and enjoying your lunch. I am Dave Mattis with Reading-Berks of Reading, for those of you that don't know me, and for those of you that do, I apologize. I've done a bunch of appeals for people over the years, so it's just one of those things that I learned how to do early on in my career, and then just have used it as a tool to help my past clients and other people that we don't know that may have a case for an appeal. And the way I use it is in marketing, I'll send out an email, like a blanket email, and say, hey, we're coming up on the time period to do the appeal. You might have a case, and of course everybody's like, oh my God, my taxes are too high, right? I mean, we all feel that way, but the math has to work, or else you just don't bother. So that's part of what we're going to go through today. So can I ask, has anyone in the room gone through one of these yet? So you've done one, bunch of people. Okay, so all right. So I'm just going to give you an overview. So I'm assuming a lot of this will be somewhat repetitive for those of you that have done it. I have some resources in the presentation which you guys can get your hands on, which are basically all the websites where you would need to go to get the tax millage chart, where you would go to get the application, where you'd go to get frequently asked questions. It's all in here, so I'll point all that out. And if you want to ask questions as we go, that's perfectly fine too. One of the things you're going to find is there's a couple of equations that are really simple equations, but you just have to kind of get your head around what we're talking about. So I'll get started, and this stuff is way too small for you guys to read, so I'll just kind of give you again, I'm starting from the basics for those of you that have not gone through this. But so what are property taxes based on here in Pennsylvania? In Berks County. So in Berks County, they're based on the assessed value of your property and its improvements, okay? So that's for vacant land, that's for farms, that's for commercial, and of course residential. So we call it property and home. The Berks County Assessment Office places assessments on all properties located within the county. And I like to keep in mind that the assessment office does not set the tax rate. It is set by the local municipalities, the county, and the school districts, which is the next thing. So county, every municipality here in Berks County and other counties sets, and each school district sets their own millage to determine the amount of tax revenue that they're going to have to work with in a given year. Okay. So does everybody have a complete grasp of how that works? So what is millage? So millage, for those of you that don't know, it's basically a number that the taxing authorities come up with to multiply times the thousands of a property's assessed value. So that's how you come up with the assessed value. It has nothing to do with, by the way, fair market value or appraised value. It is just your assessed value in the eyes of the county. So again, here's a example that I chose of just a straight up $100,000 home, or could be a $120,000 home, and it's assessed at $100,000. Okay, so you basically take 100, which is the thousands, times the millage, and that's how you get your total taxes for the year. Okay, if you're working on someone's school tax, and you say, well, what's the school tax for this house? Well, you need that millage. Okay, and if you're working on the county, that's that covers every property across the county. I think it's 7 point. I'm going to hand out these millage charts for you if you don't have them. But the county rate is 7.657. Okay, and then each individual school district, same thing. Okay, so if you want to figure out what the individuals are, and where that comes in handy for all of us as realtors is if we're trying to figure out to the penny what a seller might walk away with from closing. Trying to figure out to the penny what a buyer might need at closing for the tax reimbursements and the prorations and all that. Now we let lenders handle that, but it's a hell of a good thing to know in my opinion. So anyway, that's how property taxes are calculated and what they're based on here in Berks County. So when was Berks County last assessed?
Long time.
What? So 1994 is when we went through an entire countywide assessment here in Berks County. So it's a really long time ago, and I have a lot of tremendous respect for our politicians. We have a possible politician in the room, but I think it all comes down to whether it's going to be state mandated so we continue going forward with that, or if county commissioners decide that they want to do a reassessment. So But that's what all of the assessments that you guys see in the public records and in the multi-list that we're using, they're all based on that, okay? So the next question is, how are properties newer than 1994 assessed? Okay, I thought you'd never ask. So there is a mysterious state tax equalization board out there that every year, this, basically they're working on calculations based on market trends and market value. It's a state board, but they come up with the common level ratio for all of the counties across the state. All right. So state tax equalization board comes up with the CLR. So I'll refer to it as CLR as we go through the presentation because that's super important for what we're doing. All right. And it runs from, it only counts from July 1st through June 30th of the next year. But we luckily we seem to get advance notice, and Wes, our director here, has come up with the CLR for this year. So I'll get to that. So here's a history just over the last 6 or 7 years. 2014, the common level ratio was 76.3, 75.6. 74.34, 17 was 72.3. Last year was a bit of a gift, 68.5, and then this year, drum roll please, the common level ratio is actually 62.2, which is very good. So bottom line is, the lower it is, the better it is for your folks or you that want to apply, for appeal or calculate whether you have a case for appeal. So to me, 62.2 is a tremendous benefit. So I want to just kind of go back to the question that I had. That's $5, fine. Anybody else's cell phone goes up, it's 5, and then it multiplies. It goes up. Yeah, so the next one's 10. So new construction, how is that assessed? They when a home is built and closes and gets occupied in a calendar year, the assessment board will send somebody out, and they will determine the market value of that house based on the land cost of the land, the cost of the construction, all the information that they have. They'll come up with an assessment. They are then, or value, I should say, they are then supposed to apply this common level ratio for new construction. Okay, so there are homes out there, just so you guys know. I'm thinking maybe built between 2006 and 2012 that were assessed like at full value. So if you find one of those and it's somebody that you're working with, you need to bring that to their attention right away because they are literally spending thousands of dollars that they should not be spending.
Would you say that again?
So there was a period of time where I don't know if the assessment office was applying the number right, but they are assessed at what they were sold for. There was a bunch of homes, especially out in Douglasville, Amity Township.
Yeah.
So when you find one of those, you're going to be a hero. There's no question about it. And there's a couple doozies out there. And again, this is public knowledge, okay? But not everybody knows about it. So that's kind of why we're here today, because I think it'll definitely be a benefit to you in some way or another. So hopefully we make sense so far. So the common level ratio going forward this year is 62.2, which is fantastic. So how do you appeal the value of your home and property? For the purposes today, we are primarily going to talk about residential, okay? But I have the actual application that I'm going to hand out to you guys. You can do farms, you can do multi-units, you can do commercial properties. So the regular period every year opens July 1st through August 15th. And what that means is that you need to have your application in to the Assessment Appeal Board August 15th. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's one of those types of deals. Like if you miss it, you miss it. You got to wait until next year. But this is a very large period of time. I mean, it's 46 days, and you can march it into the courthouse if you have to on the last day. Okay, but don't bother sending it in before that. Frankly, as good of a rapport as I have with the Assessment Appeal Board, I've never asked them what happens if somebody sends one in on June 28th. I don't know. Do they throw it away? I'm not sure. They're super nice people. So again, application can be mailed or hand delivered. You can file an appeal every single year if you want to, best of my knowledge. And the results of the appeal, so if you win, the results take effect with the following tax year, so January 1st. So if you win this year, your taxes will be adjusted for your spring tax bill, your county and local. Okay? So it doesn't help you in the absolute immediate, but at least you have some relief coming. So how does the appeal process work? So again, I'm going to talk about these couple of equations. So how do we come up with your taxes? Basically, you take, again, that millage rate times your assessment, okay? Not fair market value, not your appraisal, but what the county says that property is assessed at, okay? Regardless of how they got there. So that's how you come up with the taxes. And then the way you come up to find out whether your assessment is where it should be, or whether it's high, or whether it's low, or if it's low. You take current market value, also called in some of the documentation that you'll see on the county website, fair market value. Okay, so what's fair market value? If I said to you, Dan, what do you think your home's worth today? You would definitely have an idea, right? You'd say $240,000. So from that, I could sit there and go, well, you live in Spring Township. I don't know where you live. You could live in Spring Township. Here's the millage. We think your house is worth $240,000. We do the math and we say, all right, here's what that equation equals, and based on the new common level ratio, and then you can find out if the equation, the result of that equation is below your current assessment. You should probably appeal, because it only costs $25 to appeal. Very easy process. So I have these resources in here. I don't want you to go crazy writing them down. We can figure out how to just email them to you. I have them on the very last page as well. Let me see if I'm actually able to click on some of these.
Dave, a question.
Sure.
Jersey, I know, won't allow an appeal unless you feel it's at least 15% delta from reality. Does
Gotcha.
Berks have anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. Nope. I've had people that do it every year because they don't know any better. Honest to God, I mean, I've had homeowners, tell me that. So when I click on that link, it's bringing up something here on the laptop, but it's not showing up here. So I kind of wanted to show you guys that. But if you have some time today, tomorrow, Friday, get these websites and just mess around, okay? Because the first thing I would want you to do when you went home is just take a look at your own property. Now that it's 62.2, I'm actually going to look at all my properties and see. So the ones I have, basically the assessment homepage. Well, I have that in there twice. And then we have, frequently asked questions, all right? But it's all there. If you Google Berks County Assessment, I'm telling you, it's the first thing that comes up. Okay, so how much does it cost? We covered that before. It's $25. So I don't want to say that you need to go in and appeal or help your seller or your client appeal if it seems like it's something frivolous, like you're only going to save a few dollars. But $25, if you save 100 is worth it. So there are literally people that will save thousands of dollars a year by doing this. So it's absolutely worth the fee. Other property classes like farm and commercial are $100. So still well worth it. All right. So what's the goal? The goal is to determine if the property's assessment is too high based on that fair market value, all right? So if you can demonstrate that your assessed value is greater than the current market value multiplied by the CLR, you may be eligible for a reduction. So I don't know if, I only have one sheet for this particular property. I chose a property of a past client / friend of mine who we are going to be filing this appeal. But why don't you guys write this info down. So here's a house that was sold for $420, okay, not that long ago. And if I multiply that 420,000 times 0.622 or 62.2%, the assessment would come in at $261,240. Okay, this house is assessed at $340.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's $80,000 or thereabouts. All you can do to protect yourselves is estimate, because we don't know, is the board going to give you a hard time? In the past they haven't given us a hard time as long as you show up prepared. Are they going to say, all right, you bought this house and it was in kind of fixer-upper condition, and I'm sure that you've done some work to it? They can maybe assume that or ask us a couple questions, and we can say, well, yeah, maybe we can prove that it's worth $450. But still, that is a huge, huge win. All right, so let's say we're talking about $80,000. Let's just estimate the millage for it's in Cumberland Township. Let's estimate it at 40. That's $3,200 a year that this person is going to save starting January 1st of next year, if we win. Okay. So does that all make sense? Do you guys need me to recap that again?
more time for me. I'm not that smart.
You and me both. 420 value multiplied times 62.2%. That number, I lost what the numbers were.
261, 240.
261, 240. The assessment is 340. That's a difference of 79,000 in assessment. Okay. Multiply that 79 times the millage to get an idea of what this person is going to save. Does that make sense? Okay. Like I said, these equations, you walked in a little bit after I said that, but the equations they're super simple, but they're kind of hard to get your head around, because you're comparing it to the current assessment and fair market value. Anyway, so that's this property. That's going to be a win for them without a doubt. And all I'm doing as part of that, as their realtor, is just providing a service. I'm not advising them. If we're going to use this, say this a couple times, is that we're not pretending to be attorneys here. We're helping people with this process, and hopefully it will give you a reason to go to your folks. So here again, current market value. Okay, so we'll estimate that one at 420 times the common level ratio of 62.2% equals the assessment. Okay, and now we've figured out that answer is well below their current assessment, so we're going in $25. And I'll get to the application because there's a ton of information for you on the application as far as how to do it. I mean, it's like a roadmap. It is that simple.
Dave,
Yes,
the only thing they have to do, you gotta send in a picture.
not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, you do.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do.
All right, we're gonna arm wrestle. I want that on the.
They want a picture of the front of the house.
Okay, I've never heard that before, and I've never done that. Just so you know.
It's new this year.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
All right.
because I helped 2 people fill it out
Oh,
already.
well, thank you. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So, I've never experienced that before. So, and again, the application that I just printed today is from March of 2019. So it could be on there. I haven't actually gone through it with a fine-tooth comb to see what the changes are, because every year they put one out, the changes are so subtle,
Right.
you can almost hardly figure it out. So, new thing. They require a picture. All right. So, any other questions at this moment? Yes.
Dave, you said that you have a good rapport with the people in the assessment office. Are you allowed, I didn't think you were allowed to go in with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You absolutely are. Yep.
Well,
And
I
the
was
other,
I thought a year or two ago,
Yeah,
like when I did it a few years back,
yeah.
I was allowed, and I said, no, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to go.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
maybe that was for a commercial property where you need to be
No,
represented by an
I
attorney.
don't
No,
think so.
this
I
is
don't
just
think
people's
so.
houses too.
Yeah,
It was like at the same kind of seminar as this
Who picked
that they talked
Yeah,
about, it
it
wasn't
must have
it?
been there,
Who
yeah.
did that?
That-
Thank you.
You know, I heard the same thing too,
so
that's
there's three people on there. I mean, one of them's a realtor.
Yeah,
His name is Mitch Darkard.
Yeah, Mitch.
Darkboard, if you guys know him. I don't remember the other 2 folks' names, but they're just already been consistently nice people. That they're just I'm going to cover what the how long a hearing takes and all that, and what to expect. It's really not much.
So so just to clarify, have you been there last year with people?
Yep.
Okay.
So maybe they're just not enforcing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
They've never once said, don't come, and then they'll see me sometimes 2 or 3 times in a week helping people.
Yeah.
They're like, hey Dave, how you doing? So how to determine if you have a valid case? Okay, we already sort of talked about that with the equation, but what can you use to prove? So on the application, it actually says that if you've had an appraisal in the last 6 months, they want you to use that. So you have to answer yes or no to that question, and you need to decide whether you want to answer that question with a yes if you've had one, because sometimes if you have an appraisal in hand, it's not going to justify your case as much as it would be if we came in and said, here's what I think my fair market value is. So you can get an appraisal that was done in the last 6 months. It actually says something about including it in here with the application, but again, I don't really think you have to do that. They just want you to be prepared when you show up for the actual hearing. So this is where we come in, documented recent sales of at least 3 similar properties sold within the last 6 months. And I do show up with pendings from time to time, and just like we all do, maybe we'll call up the listing agent and say, it's pending, can you share the terms? Because I do like to note that there's seller's assist or no seller's assist. And then if the property is a multi-unit, the income and expense data is required. So just be prepared for that. Should be easy enough to get. So the application. So this is where I'll hand this out. It's an awful lot of information. wanna send those down. And this is maybe where we'll see the part about the picture.
It's in, they highlighted it.
Oh, did they?
Uh-huh. Yep, it's on the backside.
Okay.
In red.
It just says please though.
Please. Define that.
Ah, gray area,
Yeah, right.
thank God.
All right, so here's the application, and again, I have a link to that in the presentation. We can get you that. It's again Google Berks County Assessment or Berks County Assessment Office. It'll be the first 3 or 4 links that come up. So again, this has all the this is like a roadmap right here. So it's got where your seller asks you where do you send the application? Well, it's right at the top. How much does it cost? It's right at the top. Okay, it tells you who to make it out to. Appeal forms may not be sent via email or fax. An individual, they must be the legal or equitable owner, attorney representing, or an attorney representing that person. One of the above reference must be present, so your owner does have to come. And then maybe what they were talking about there, Patty, is that you could not attend it for them. Okay, we have gotten permission under extreme circumstances because again, when you get that notice for your hearing, that's your hearing date. End of story. Like you're not changing it. They're not going to allow you to. They are pretty strict about that. And we have had to have a homeowner write a very specific letter to say, hey, I'm going to be out of the country. I'm going on vacation. I just literally cannot make that day. And then on the back of this application, by the way, they actually ask you for dates that you will be unavailable. So if you know you have a vacation coming up in September or October or late August, you just if you fill that in, and they will do their very best to pick a different day. All right, so property ID number, you get that from public records. This is the one piece of info that your homeowners are going to be like, where do I get this info? Even though they could literally, 5 clicks, they could have it themselves. So you help them. The class, for most of the properties that we're going to be doing, with the exception of you, Jim, and I don't know if anybody else is commercial here, the class is res. You just put in RES. Okay, so if it's a farm, I'm assuming you write in farm. If it's commercial, you put in COM or COMM. But keeping in mind if it's an LLC, attorney needs to file the appeal and attorney needs to be at the hearing. Not sure why.
What did you say for any LLC?
Yep.
So even anybody that has any little investment properties and they have it under an LLC?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I highlighted that one, Danny, on the first page. An appeal by a limited liability corporation or partnership must be filed by an attorney and the attorney must be present. Okay, so I just take that at face value. All right. So again, that property tax ID is the biggest thing that you're going to be able to provide your owners. You want to have them fill this out. They can be on the phone with you. It's super simple. Again, you check who you are, subject. Then it has like a brief description of what what are you using the property for? Is it a residence? Is it a farm? Is it vacant land? Is it a multi-unit? Has it been appraised in the last? Now it does say if it's been appraised in the last 6 months, yes, attach a copy for the file. Okay, so if you follow the instructions, it says attach a copy. The appraisal amount, they want you to write that in, and the reason for the appraisal. So yeah, they just bought it, whatever, they refinanced it. So that's page 1. Page 2 has the owner's name again and the tax ID number again. Okay, and then it goes on to describe to you the exact same thing it's going to say on the website. What does fair market value mean, or how may that be demonstrated? Again, appraisal, 3 similar sales within the last 6 months, and income expense data required for commercial and multi-unit properties. And in red it says, please provide a picture. Thank you, Bonnie. You probably would have won the arm wrestling match anyway. So I'm going to keep going on the application. The other question that comes up from homeowners: what do I put when it says state reasons for filing this appeal? What do I put in there? And it is the wording is that I say that my tax assessment is too high based on fair market value. That's the wording that I recommend. You can say any darn thing you want to, but again, tax assessment is too high based on fair market value. All right, so then it goes on to say important appointments will not be rescheduled. So again, you're going to get a thing in the mail that says your appointment's on this day at this time and where to report. And you're going to be super nervous, and they're going to be super nervous, and it's nothing to be nervous about whatsoever. And then again, they want you to list the dates that you'll be unavailable if you have vacations coming up. I put I put weekends in, I'm just kidding. So one other piece of information that I like to put, make sure that you have your homeowner fill out. On the back, it says, list below any additional party to be notified of the proceedings of this appeal. So that's where you would put, if you're going to bring an attorney with you, you want to make sure that they get copied on it. But you should make sure they put your information on that line, because when the day those come out, they end up in both of your mailboxes, and it's sort of like, ooh, it's kind of like Christmas almost.
Dang.
You get all these.
I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah.
I didn't put my name in.
Yeah, go for it, because then you know, and you can just put them right into your calendar if you're going to accompany the people on, and you don't have to accompany them. They don't need you to, but I think it helps.
Is that, I'm sorry, I missed it, list below any additional parties? Is that what you're saying?
That's it.
For our
Yep.
information? Okay.
Yep, I just put in there Reading-Berks at Reading, Dave Mattis, and my address, and call it a day, and then fold it up with a check, and off you go. So any other questions about the application? And again, I have a whole bunch of them up here, so I'll pass those out. Oh, another thing that I have for you guys is, and I know this is on the RBAR website, and maybe some of you all know where to find this, but I'm just going to make it super easy for you. I actually have a link in the presentation. But these are the current millage charts for you too. So it's got a breakdown of the school, the county, and the local municipality. And this comes in handy when you're, working out taxes for people with new construction or doing those prorations that you sometimes have to do. You guys.
Dave, I don't know if it's a good time to ask or if it's gonna be in your presentation, but the notion of a nice size remodel job, they pull a permit for 20 grand.
Mhm.
That gets stacked on top of the assessment anyway.
It does. So that's a great question, Jim. I actually did not address that in here. We might as well talk about it because it happens to our homeowners all the time and to us. So let's say you pulled a permit to put on a deck, and you've given them a quote from your builder and a drawing, and it says $20,000. So in theory, when they get notification that that permit is closed, that's what triggers a reassessment. It doesn't trigger an entire reassessment of your home. It just triggers a reassessment to tack on to your current assessment. So in other words, they're going to determine how much market value did it add to your home.
Is it simple math, or they look at what you're doing? I mean, I've
No.
wasted a lot of money on improvements over the years, and
To me, it's a negotiation game. In other words, if you did a $20,000 deck, they're probably going to assess you at like $6,000. They're not going to do 62.2.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They're going to assess it at a number that you're not going to fight. Could they say that your deck added $30,000, so we're going to do 62.2% of that? They could, but they typically do not. That's been my experience. So it's a really, really good question. It's just again, to guide you and to guide your homeowners. Okay, I'm doing an addition out the back, and it's an $80,000 addition. You can probably expect about a $40,000 bump for something like that. And it just gets tacked on, and then you also have an appeal period for that as well, which is completely separate from this. So if you receive that notice on September 1st, I think you have 40 days to appeal that assessment. If that makes sense.
An appraiser wouldn't give you 40 grand.
What's that?
An appraiser wouldn't give you 40 grand for the new deck.
Right. Well, we all know that. So I think they actually, in a smart way, take that into consideration and kind of come in low, so it's not something that they're going to spend hours and hours fighting with you about this assessment. They want you to just look at it and go, well, I can live with that and move forward. That's how I've always viewed it. So I don't know if that makes sense or not. That link there was to the application. So what are we expecting in the hearing? You heard me talk about that for a couple times. So again, the owner will be notified of their hearing, and we talked about on the back of that application to get your name on there as well. And then you simultaneously will receive the notification, and you guys can decide together. Are you going to go with them, or are you going to just give them what they need? They're going to be scared, So I have no trouble going in. Hopefully I can get them to buy me lunch. Just kidding. So you're going to sit with a board of 3, essentially. And again, they're friendly, smiling faces. They're not, my experience, they're not grumpy. They're, they know why you're there. Bring copies of the MLS sheets. You do not need to send them in with the application. Okay, but that's another question that you'll get from your homeowners. Okay. And again, I sometimes overload them with information, so if I have 2 closed sales and 3 pendings, I'll give them all of those, or if I have 3 closed and a couple, just there's no harm to giving them more information than they're asking for. So the hearings, so they typically last for no more than 5 minutes. If I walk in and I have back to back, they'll be like, okay, Dave, just stay, and your folks, they can just keep coming. Or if they're running ahead of schedule, they'll pop their head out and say, who's here? Come on in. I mean, it literally takes that long. They look at your property assessment. They'll ask you a couple of questions. Do you have a finished basement? Do you have a swimming pool? Something that they may not see on their information. And you just answer the question. You let the homeowner answer the questions honestly and show them your comps. The other thing is about the application that I skipped over is what fair market value do you think the home is worth? So you actually need to commit to a number. Okay. So they'll
But
come
not
up.
on
I think it's on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to write down what
I
they
think
think
there's-
is the fair market value.
Yeah, you have to commit. Oh, I'm sorry, Danny, it's on the front. Right under purchase price, your opinion of value of property. Okay. But the main thing is, for those of you that haven't done it, the hearings typically last more than 5 minutes, and it is very easy to do.
And Dave, excuse me.
Yeah.
That is important because I've had a homeowner already write what they thought it was.
Right.
And they should talk to you first.
Well, the part about where we come into play is that
They
you're
think they're
actually
selling it.
Yeah.
you're strategizing just like I just said they strategize with how they do those assessments on pools and additions and things like that. You're actually strategizing with your seller. You're basically saying, all right, maybe if we put a sign out here today, it would be, maybe we try $399.9, but I think we can justify $369.9 or $370. It's a strategy. I mean, every homeowner has the right to do it, and that's the process. So that's how I approach it. So great point. You want to put in my opinion.
You want to do the figures.
the
for
number
them.
do the figures with them, and you want to put in the number that you're shooting for to prove. Doesn't mean they'll agree with you, but you got to commit. You will hear back typically 1 month after the hearing as to what your result was, which is all, like I said, it's like Christmas. Sometimes you get like 5 of them in your mailbox, and it's like, woo. And then the other thing, sorry, Bonnie, the other thing that I like to do is I quickly then get out my millage chart and calculate the difference of what they just saved, and you're like, and again, it's another excuse for you to call your client, so I'm gonna make them extremely happy, hopefully. Yes.
Don't they let you know right there?
No.
Mitch had said that one year. I try and get to all of these so I know what's new and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought he said, well, they kind of stamp it and say yes or no and tell you right there.
I've never had that done.
No.
They've alluded to, sometimes they said, well, I can see you have, an issue, or what they've alluded, that you're
Yeah.
going to come in, but they really don't want to commit, And it's a couple of new people too, actually, Mitch and somebody else, and 1 or 2 of them have been there forever, and now they've moved on.
Okay.
So the other thing to know, and this you need to put your homeowners' minds at ease, is that your assessment will not be raised as a result of this appeal application. Yeah, because
Oh, so they can automatically raise it?
not based on this. I mean, they can, for any other reason, if the school district comes in and says, we think this assessment is wrong, and they want to go through that battle, that's a totally different process than this. Completely separate.
That's always the fear.
Yeah, that's
Someone
always.
doing it.
Well, again, I don't know if it's the right time, Dave, but the concept of what I'll call reverse assessments, where the school district doesn't like the assessment and they appeal.
Right.
You run across that?
Well, in a couple of areas, yeah. I mean, there were a district or 2 in Schuylkill County was doing that. Reading is doing it here and there. They absolutely are. But it's their right to be able to do that. But it has nothing to do with,
Would the homeowner get notified of that proceeding, do you think?
I'm sure.
One of my clients did. He bought a investment property with a business, and he says, "No, this isn't." They noticed by it when it was transferred. That's where the flag came up. And he says, "No, it's not worth it. I bought a business with this besides the
Oh, I
property."
see.
So he had appealed. He got him down some, but not as much as he would have liked.
Well, that I don't think is what I'm talking about, though.
I'm not sure. So, Jim, just to sort of address what I think you are talking about, which I think it's the same
It's the same thing?
Yeah, you person buys a property for one reason or another, the city or the someone.
Not even a sale, just out of the blue. I heard Wyomissing was doing that
They have stopped.
to Berkshire Mall. They didn't like the assessment.
They've stopped with residential.
They have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wyomissing in particular has stopped with residential, but they all have the right to do it. I don't think that there's anything in our state tax laws that say that they are not. They are
It's
not
just out of the blue that
Wow, I
the
didn't
school
know.
district or the muni doesn't like their
Yeah.
side of the cut.
So again, good news. Reassure them, and if they want to play a joke on somebody, on their wife or something, they can say, well, guess what? We had our hearing and they raised our taxes. So I did that one time. I probably won't do it again. It was funny to me and the guy, but but luckily we could go back and say, we saved some money. So this pretty much ends it, but the purpose of this was to just kind of educate those of you that knew and didn't know, and of course I learned something today as well. And it's just basically adding value to your real estate practice, in my opinion. I think you're assisting the process, and you're going to be creating loyalty. I mean, I'm going to be listing a house, I would say probably in the next 2 weeks, and it's a $500,000 house, and I don't really list that many of those, and it's all because I saved them probably $2,000 maybe 5 years ago. So they're just like, Dave, you saved us a ton of money, and we are using you. No ifs, ands, or buts. So that's a pretty good success story. So a couple things to keep in mind. You're not an attorney. So if you have any questions that need to be addressed by an attorney, as is in the consumer notice, and you all know about that, is raise your hand and say, we need one. That's really, really important, because the word represent is constantly used in our real estate business, and we're representing their best interest, but we are not an attorney. That said, attorneys will appreciate your help with this. So I market to a pretty good list of attorneys, and I actually got an email because I sent out a blast email last week, and I have one in my inbox saying, hey Dave, I'm thinking that based on the 62.2 I might have a shot. So guess what? I'm going to be having an ongoing conversation with this attorney who will hopefully from time to time need to refer me, and hopefully we'll be successful. So again, I know this stuff's all too small for you guys to write down, so we'll have to figure out how Maylene can get this into your inboxes. But again, we have the home page. We have the link to it's actually an editable form, but I don't know that you can fill it out 100% online, so I typically just print it and have the seller fill it out and mail it in. We have the millage chart, which I handed out to you guys, and you guys should be just getting that every, going to the our website and pulling that up every February or whatever. The appeal notice, which is just information, and then frequently asked questions, all on the county website. So what other questions do you have? Yes.
Dave, do they still, if you settle on a new construction, and you get the assessment back right away, is it still you can appeal any time of the year?
You have a time period from the date of receiving that assessment. So you have, I think you have 40 days.
But you don't have to wait till July 1.
Correct, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so what she's asking is if one of your clients, or you built a home, you settled on September 1st, you got the notification of reassessment on October 31st, you do not have to wait till July 1st to appeal that. And it will say that very clearly, but people still, may not.
I didn't know if you touched on that.
I did not know. I think you have 40 days for that one as well.
Okay,
Yes.
just to clarify, so the new common level ratio 62.2 is going to take effect July 1 of
Right.
2019.
Yep.
So it runs like the school tax.
Yeah, so for anything that you may run into, whether it's your house or somebody else's house that it's all going to, it's all going forward anyway. So that's the number. So the nice part is you don't have to wait till July 1st to find out. So you can actually, if you know some people that need to, look at these calculations, now you can plug in the correct number and not have to guess. Because last year it was 68.5, and that was still a very good number. But I mean, it's better than four points, So any other questions? All right, guys. Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Hopefully you
Thank you.
appreciated that.